Here's an individual case. 39-year-old woman. A 1.5 centimeter lesion. That's less than an inch. What should I do? Well, if I profile her tumor, I look at those 21 genes, I get a score of 4. This is going nowhere. She doesn't need chemotherapy. She's going to be fine. Maybe I'll give her tamoxifen, but that's about all. The same type of situation. But now, an older lady. Remember that old paradigm? Oh, it's old, she's old. Why do anything? That's not true. Because if I look at her score is 36. And this tumor is, you can intercede. This is a person whose chemotherapy will be right on target. And you can tailor this right to her. That's amazing. What it tells us in all these great studies that were done over this last 2 or 3 years who are going to benefit from tamoxifen or Arimidex or Femara or Aromasin, and we found those patients are going to benefit from chemotherapy. What's hormonal treatment of breast cancer? What the heck is this? Well, guess what? Until proven otherwise, breast cancer means estrogen is the fertilizer that kicks this whole thing into gear. And we know how this works. Well, everybody knows that ladies have ovaries. But ovaries can be controlled by the pituitary gland. By the way back when they didn't have medicine, they took out ladies' pituitaries because they knew, well, take that out, the ovaries don't work. And guess what? Ladies with breast cancer did well. And then later on, they said, you know, we can take out the ovaries. Oh, okay. So now what we do is we give medicines. They stop the switch from the pituitary. But what happens if the lady is postmenopausal? The ovaries are taking a siesta. They say good night. But guess what? You're still making estrogen. And that's something that's a revelation, a real revelation. And I want to explain that because there's a and I want to explain to you why. We know that the cell, the breast cancer cell, is terribly dependent on estrogen. And I told you about the progesterone and the estrogen receptor, the key holder that gets fed by that hormone. In your cell, right by the DNA. And if I could think of ways that I could manipulate breast cancer, I could have a strategy. I could have a way of going around things. Maybe someday we're going to have better diets or better medicines that people don't get breast cancer. We know that people who have a predilection for breast cancer, that perhaps in those patients that have family members that have a lot of breast cancer or had a biopsy and had a pre-cancerous lesion, we could give them tamoxifen or its sister drug, raloxifene. Maybe that would prevent things from happening. But what happens that are aromatase inhibitors? Why do they work? Well, I want to use another cartoon, and it's a very important one. Believe it or not, the physiology behind this is fascinating. It's like Star Wars. In our in which they can get their food. One of them is the fact that there's a second source of estrogen in every one of us, men and women. We have adrenal glands. Terribly important. We all need them. We have to have them. We need that. But on the pathway to making cholesterol, every one of us, men and women, make a male hormone. And in breast tissue, and in fat, and in breast cancer cells, there is an enzyme. Guess what it does? It changes that male hormone into estrogen. It made its own food. It made its own food supply. Guess what? You could stop it. Medicines that now will attack only one thing, and that is that one enzyme, so that it can convert the male hormone into estrogen. And now we have an incredible success. This has been looked at in a schematic of biochemistry, which I'm not going to bore you with, but that's what I said. But what it really does, it tells us that we now have more ammunition. And the ammunition goes like this. This only works in postmenopausal women because it's still working. There's just too much estrogen to compete. It doesn't go there. But for postmenopausal women, this becomes an incredible drug because it's been shown in the ATAC trial and a number of different trials that it is just as good and potentially better than tamoxifen. But now we're learning things otherwise. Maybe we can combine the two. Maybe they all have different side effects, and maybe we can individualize and lessen the side effects by varying how we give this medicine. We were a part of a trial that looked at giving Femara. Invasive, that were estrogen receptor positive, went on tamoxifen for 5 years. And after 5 years, half of those ladies were stopped. Half got a placebo sugar pill. The study had to be stopped within 2 years. And the reason for that is that there were double the amount of recurrences in the ladies that were getting the sugar pill than the tamoxifen. Than the Femara. So the answer becomes we were able now to do something different. This has been shown for the other two medicines as well, aromatase and arimidex. And now we just have more. We found that we have another set of drugs. They all have different types of side effects. In the well. But now we have something new. There's no more silence on this. It's no more how can we destroy a lady by just taking out her ovaries or doing a hypophysectomy. And we just don't have just tamoxifen alone. It says it can't be cured. I think Dwight and I would probably have a couple of dozen patients who would disagree with that. Aromatase inhibitors are very effective. We have ladies who are living and going to play golf, going to play tennis. And we're not talking about for a few months, we're talking about years. I don't know if that's cure yet, but we're getting there. Let's talk about something a little bit different in chemotherapy. Because no one, no matter what meeting, even the ones that I have the privilege of being with or at, talk about chemotherapy. It's like a bad 4-letter word. I know it's not a 4-letter word. It's got more letters in it than that. But there's a couple of letters I hate. And one of them is called Adriamycin. I hate that stuff. But it's a bad medicine, but it's awfully good. But this body needed. And all of a sudden, a few years ago, some very bright people said, you know what, there's something different here. Ladies that had HER2 positivity, that's that other thing that sits on the cell surface, that other keyhole that makes you using Herceptin. And I'll explain all this a little bit more. But those ladies that got it, guess what? If they got Adriamycin, they did better.